Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Revenge Garden. I am Carmen Cook. Thank you so much for joining me to hear these two excerpts from these wonderful stories, and I can't wait to get started. So we're going to jump right in with Christina Soul's Returning. Carmen watched Brian McAllister make his way towards her, and she recognized that determined look in his weaselly eyes. She braced herself. God knew it was never good when your ex-husband wanted to talk to you at a public event. Ever. Setting her now empty wine glass on the bar top, she quickly scanned the liquor bottle display. Macklin 18, please. Neat, she said when the bartender placed a monogrammed cocktail napkin before her. It was always so surprising you liked scotch. The mere sound of Brian's voice sent a chill running down her spine, and not the good kind of chill. You're so petite that I always expected you to be a more docile drinker, something more feminine, like a Cosmo or a lemon drop. It took everything she had to keep her expression neutral. Why is that exactly, Brian? She knew exactly why, but wanted to hear it out of the dipshit's mouth. And she knew he was dumb enough to say it out loud. You just look so innocent and docile and sweet, like a little China doll. Or in your case, a little Filipino doll. He chuckled to himself and her fists clenched. If she could punch him in the face, she would. You're at a work gala, Carmen. You cannot cause a scene. Because truly, Carm, you're more like an exotic and docile little schoolgirl than a tough, burly Scotch drinker, more meek and, good God, if he said docile one more time, she was going to knee him in the balls. Causing a scene be damned. Shit, she might knee him in the nuts anyway. Why the hell had she married this man in the first place? It hadn't been because of his great conversation skills. He obviously had none. Hadn't been because he supported her. God knew he'd never done that. And it hadn't been because he had a magical dick. Frankly, the sex had only been okay at best. She couldn't fathom what she'd been thinking. Nope, she took that back. Carmen knew precisely why she'd fallen for him. Back then, he'd been better at the bullshit. Back then, he pretended to care, to love her for her, pretended that she mattered. And she'd bought it all, proverbial hook, line, and sinker. God, she'd been an idiot. She'd laughed off the warnings of concerns from her family and friends, even though some had flat out said Brian was only after her for her connections and money. She'd dismissed everyone, convinced Brian was right. They were all just jealous of their love. But the joke had been on her. And like her first two, her third marriage had ended in divorce. Her first union had been fiery and emotional. The second, cold and distant. This last one, mortifying, beyond embarrassing, humiliating, and whatever other pathetic adjective she could tack on. Now she was older and somewhat wiser. No more relationships or alliances. Carmen, we made a great team. Actually, we didn't, she scoffed, her amiable demeanor slipping. He continued as if she hadn't spoken, and she didn't bother hiding her grimace. Some things never changed. Just think, together we could take over Clearwater campaign. I could lead the board, and with your support under my fresh new leadership, implement groundbreaking changes. Me. Again, some things never changed. Carmen had no illusion that Brian cared one bit about CWC's mission to bring change and help communities. No, Brian was allergic to actual work. He just wanted a seat on their board of directors, which consisted mostly of her family members and several equally wealthy and prominent Seattle business leaders. The combined net worth of CWC's board was ridiculous. Like, they could buy small countries ridiculous. Brian had always thought if he were on the board, that excess wealth would rub off on him, like some sort of magical osmosis. Brian, all I'm hearing is how this alliance will benefit you. Not that she wanted anything to do with his stupid alliance. I'm already on CWC's board, and I'm the president. The only two people higher up than me are my parents. You and I are never happening again. So stop wasting your goddamn breath. She turned from the bar and was jerked to a halt, her scotch spilling on her fingers as it sloshed over the rim of the glass. Brian's hand circled her bicep and clamped down. Hard. She gasped. Jesus, Carm, he hissed, yanking her closer. From the outside, she knew they looked like two friends huddled together for a private conversation. His grip tightened and the first stirrings of panic began to overtake her initial anger. Why are you being so fucking difficult? For once, why won't you just listen? Sweetheart, there you are. A deep voice rumbled behind her. Brian's grip on her arm immediately released, and he took a full step back. The familiar scent of a spicy aftershave washed over Carmen, momentarily calming her erratic heart and dousing the panic and anger. A pair of firm yet soft lips brushed over her forehead, and a large hand settled at the small of her back. "Excuse us," the man said, sending a withering glare to Brian, who paled at those two little dismissive words. Carmen didn't spare Brian another glance. As she allowed herself to be steered away, she pasted the fake smile back on her face, clutching her companion's strong, muscular arm like it was a lifeline. Hell, it was. Still, she refused to admit that her heart was beating an unsteady rhythm, that her breath was shaky, that her asshole of an ex-husband had rattled her. Shit. It was going to be a long night. That is from Christina Souls Returning. Now we're going to jump over to Aria Bliss's Truck You. Let me get that for you. Chase wipes his thumb across my chin the same way a mother would do for her child with a dirty face. I slap his hand away. What the fuck, man? You had a little mustard on your chin. His eyes roam over my face like he's inspecting it for something else to wipe off. I give him a shove and fight the urge to roll my eyes. Just tell me next time. I can wipe my own damn face. Where would the fun in that be? He grins before he sprints in the direction of the water gun game that Liam, Ash, and Christian are already playing. Well, Liam and Ash are playing. Christian is leaning against the pole, smoking a cigarette like he's bored out of his mind. At least he's here and trying. That's more than I can say for Garrett. He's probably at home, alone in his tiny house, brooding. Not interested in shooting water guns at a small target, I head over to the skee-ball tent. I buy myself a bucket of balls and settle in front of an open lane. I was just about ready to toss my third ball after swishing the first two right down the 100-point ring when a loud squeal causes me to stumble. Glancing around, I freeze when I find the source of the noise a few lanes over. A young woman about my age is bouncing on her toes and clapping after successfully hitting the 100-point target with all 9 balls, earning herself a top score. But her score is not what has captured my attention. It's her. With a bright smile, fair skin, and fiery red hair, she just might be the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She looks urethral, yet tough as nails in her tight-as-fuck jeans and hot knee-high boots. Her features are soft and delicate, but there's something about that smile she's sporting and the way she carries herself that screams badass. She turns to face the carny, who's providing her with a selection of prizes to choose from, and the light hits her face. Her eyes are the color of the sky on a cloudless summer day. She has a scattering of freckles over her nose and cheeks that I want to trace with my finger. Her peach-colored lips are full and plump and just begging to be kissed. She is fucking adorable, and I need to know who she is right now. Jackson's a bigger city than the small village I'm from, but I've lived in this area my whole life. Everyone knows everyone in these parts. I can't imagine someone as strikingly beautiful as her could live here this entire time without me seeing her before. Movement out of the corner of my eye pulls my eyes off her. Tanner Koch is watching her with his lust-filled amusement. He says something to one of his brothers and moves in her direction as if he's going to act on his wicked thoughts. A possessive growl grumbles from out of my chest like I have some claim on this gorgeous stranger, despite knowing full well I don't. But that doesn't stop me from taking the first step towards her. My strides are long and quick, and I reach her before Tanner even gets within 20 feet. He glares at me like he's itching to start a fight, same way he did at the bar earlier tonight. I shift my stare to the redhead that drew me over. She's looking back and forth between us with raised brows before finally settling on me. Do you know that guy? She asks. Yeah. I wave him off like he's unimportant. Just some guy from my hometown. She watches me with careful gaze as if she wants to ask more. Clearly, she clued in on the tension between Tanner and me. I could tell her more, but I don't want to scare her off before I even get her name. So, I take it you're not from Jackson? She rests her hands on her hips and tilts her head to the side as she looks at me. She's not exactly short, but if I were to guess, I'd say I have a good 5 or 6 inches on her. I'm not as tall as some of my brothers, but at 6 feet, I'm taller than most people around here. Nope. I give her my best smile, the one that always makes the girls swoon. I live about 15 miles west of here. How about you? I've never seen you around here. New to town. I just arrived this afternoon. She glances around as if she's seeing all the booths and games for the first time. I didn't know I was arriving at the start of a local festival. This is awesome. It is pretty cool. We Southern Ohioans love our festivals. Her eyes narrow slightly and she adjusts her stance and studies me. Her eyes dart around my face before a puzzled look takes over her expression. I raise a brow as if to question why she's inspecting me so carefully. Then her eyes widen and her jaw drops before she covers her mouth. Oh my God, you're Mac Mutter. My smile widens. You've heard of me? She nods emphatically. I am a huge racing fan. I followed your career for years. Really? Suddenly, this redheaded bombshell just got a whole lot more interesting. I guess you have if you know who I am. I never made it to the Sprint Cup. She shrugs as if that doesn't matter. I watch more amateur and ARCA races than I do sprint. I think those drivers sometimes have more heart. I press my hand against my heart and look to the heavens. Geez, Red, are you trying to make me fall in love already? She laughs and scrapes her foot across the ground like a nervous habit. Sorry to disappoint, but racing already has my heart. I mock being hurt, but really I am thrilled. A girl that loves racing as much as me is a rare find. Assuming she's being truthful and not saying all this shit to fool me. Wouldn't be the first time. You know, I was really bummed when you got knocked out a couple years ago. Her expression turned serious and a little solemn. I would have loved to have seen you dominate the Sprint Cup. Are you planning a comeback? Huh, so she's not lying. If Red knows about that, she knows racing. I shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable with the conversation. I hate talking about the accident. I still race, but that accident messed me up more than I want to admit. Maybe, I finally answer. I'm racing again, taking it slow. An accident like that really makes a man reevaluate his priorities. She nods and scans the surrounding area, looking at anything and everything except me. I hope my truth about racing didn't make her uncomfortable. My brothers give me enough shit about getting back into the game. I don't need it from a stranger, too. Then she lifts her bucket of balls and smiles. Do you like skee ball? I smile in return and point over my shoulder at where my bucket still sits. I love skee ball. It's my favorite carny game. Her smile grows and her eyes sparkle with mischief. Care to wager? I cross my arms over my chest and take a step closer. Are you challenging me? She pats my arm and grins like she thinks I'm being adorable. You bet your ass I am. And just like that, she draws me in even more. That is Aria Bliss's Truck You. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.